if all of our expression is directed to celebrate realness and authenticity and uniqueness and each person's genius, I don't think there's anything more exciting in the world than someone's authentic expression.
Well, hello, Katie.
Hello, Sophie.
How
so
are
delightful
you?
to see you in this kind of new environment. Do tell, where are you?
I'm in Los Angeles, which, funny enough, I look like I'm in a cabin in the Alps or something. Everything is French. So yesterday I was walking in the lobby and they have a scarf that's framed. And I looked at the scarf and I went, I know this scarf. And so it's a Hermes, Hermes, whatever you guys put here. A very famous, my mom has that scarf. I called my mom and I turned the thing around and I was like, Mom, does that remind you of something? And she went running and she pulled up the scarf and she has the scarf. I was just such a delightful moment. So talking about clothes and fashion and beautiful things, we just had an incredible week. You and I just went to a photo shoot and so much happened. I really wanted to deconstruct a little bit of the process for us. Do you want to start us on your
yes. The whole idea, there were so many things that came up for me. And one that's just coming to me is that having my picture taken when I was little was always a pain. I remember that my mother was really the photographer, and she considered herself a photographer, and she would always place us in the same place outside the front door. And so I have years and years of pictures of us all sort of lining up and, okay, let's have the picture before you go. And then it was the time where you had to send in the photos. You couldn't, and wait for them to be developed. And then so when we would get them back, there would always be at least one person who'd have their head cut off, in the picture. So, just the whole idea of, somebody's going to look at me and they're always going to have something critical to say. And so that was some of the background for me coming to the photo shoot and the experience of being, especially with our stylist, Juliana, who was so, she had a vision of what was working and what was not working, but her contact was so warm and inviting and non-judgmental. I felt as though through the whole shoot that I got a new idea about how to see myself. That was one of the big things.
I want to kind of go to the onset of how we even the preparing for the shoot, I thought was full of also accompanying ourselves and you being there for yourself and me being there and Juliana. I mean, there was so much in the way we got to do it. And I would love to talk about energy and how, as we were inspired, we felt excited. As we were feeling self-doubt, we were almost like, I don't know that I've so directly connected how what I was saying to myself about the doing of the thing was affecting I was truly believing I was tired when really I wasn't. I was affecting my...
you were talking to yourself as if you should be tired.
Something, because I was experiencing tiredness, but then somehow I would shift because you said something or Juliana would say something and I would find this energy. Where was the energy before? Obviously it was there.
That is just so valuable for you to say, because also I drove down, and had packed and brought all of these different possible outfits. And so it took almost 3 hours just to get to the shoot. And and find it, and then walking in the door, it was as if I just walked in the door, and almost immediately it was almost like being on stage. Okay, here we go. Take this, put this on, try this, and so for me, part of the energy was just gathering and intending to participate fully, and just coming back to that, okay, of gathering, not forcing myself, but just a kind of gathering and okay, breathing and kind of recommitting, like, okay, here we are and we're doing this. But what really fed, I think, my energy was all the creativity.
Yeah.
So new things to try. How does this work with this? And then changing the whole sense of how I present myself in the world, and also sloughing off some old ideas of myself, like I thought I'm bigger than I am.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's true for you because you're so way not bigger than you used to be. You're really the other direction. And the power, I think also the power of appreciating that the room was filled with appreciation. The
Yeah.
whole venture was filled with, oh, this really works. Oh, I like this angle on you. Not like, ugh. There were a few like, no, that doesn't work. But it
Yeah.
was basically just, no, that doesn't work.
It was
And
neutral. It was not a judgment on us. It was more,
right.
this jacket looks better on you than this other one. Like neutral, like not just information as opposed to opinion almost.
Yes. And for me, it just having a point of view that was neutral
Mm.
allowed me to go, oh, I learned that one from my grandmother, or, oh, that was what, how people dressed in the 50s. And I still have a leftover of, like this doesn't go with this.
Oh, yeah.
So I got to revisit kind of my fashion history through the whole day, which
Mm.
was also quite fascinating. But being given the opportunity to play
Mm.
in a non-judgmental space, I'm just thinking about the applications for that, for other people, like how can I create just delivering information rather than loading it up with an opinion,
Mm.
about how someone should be.
And I feel you certainly do, because if I was to translate, say, my experience with our friend Juliana, who's a stylist and has an eye, it's clearly her zone of genius. Like she has, what do you think, 7,000 items in that house? Like there's
Well, three
so,
rooms full, and I never even made it to the third room.
I mean, it looks like you're in like a warehouse of clothes, and somehow
Yes.
she grabs actually the jacket you're wearing right now,
Yes. So
grabs
this is
one
one of the,
thing
yes.
and she puts it on you. And of all the possibilities, that's the zone of genius. Like there's no other eye. There's nothing that can do that other than, she sees you and she knows what she has and picks it and puts it together. So there was
Well,
that.
one
Go
of the
ahead.
things that I just want to interrupt you because I was talking to Juliana one time, I think when you were having some individual pictures taken,
Yeah.
she was really talking about what we share is our intention to reveal essence. And we both use the word
Oh,
essence,
yeah.
and that clothing is a way of revealing your essence to the world.
Oh,
And so she was not looking at, oh, this fits you, this doesn't fit you, but really, does this express your essence? And I could feel that from her. So I could sense that. I could sense in the way that she was with me and her tone. So I never felt any kind of jangle of, oh, she's judging me. And I realized that I am incredibly sensitive to that. And it's probably part of why I had never participated in anything like this before.
to not risk being talked about
Yeah,
like
to not,
that.
well, and also to just, and the experiences that had come that I hadn't quite sorted out yet,
Yeah.
about what this is about. And I was carrying them, a little bit like extra extra layers of clothing. So I got to slough those off. And it was, that was also very fun to just see everybody interacting with each other.
I wanted to make sure you heard my acknowledgement. We went a little fast over it, and I really wanted to make sure you to anchor this, because what you are speaking of that Juliana did for you, I certainly feel like you've done that for me, not for I mean, clothes sometimes too. You'll notice something I wear that you like, and that's fun. But the way you speak of me, of my actual essence, and how you have noticed things about my personality or the way I show up or the way people feel when I'm around, or that have exactly had this effect of like rewiring my history of how I was talked about before, or with a very it has that quality of like, you're not even, the way you speak is, sometimes people give you compliments and you can tell it's like they're giving you a compliment.
Right.
Not that.
Yeah.
This is not that. This is you seeing a part of
Yeah.
my essence that I don't necessarily reveal, or I don't even know whatever it is, but you're mirroring something in a loving way, the way she may have said, this jacket brings your essence more than this other jacket, let's say. And What a quality to be walking around with friends that can do that for you and do that with
Yes, well, and I think that we can do that for each other.
yeah.
So the intention to see essence, to invite essence, it allows me to just really see what's core, and is that being expressed directly, or is maybe something blocking that from really being celebrated. And I think that our is also like a noticing genius.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are in their genius, so like Juliana, the stylist, was absolutely in her essence. I mean, in her genius, and well, in her essence also.
Essence as well.
And 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 because of that, she had a kind of, a quality of lightness and easiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, criticalness, judgment, people trying to share, it always has that tone
Mm-hmm.
of more of contraction, people trying to corral. But in the space of receiving the communication that someone else is interested in and appreciating who you really are,
Mm-hmm.
what we're calling essence. But for many, many years, like when I first met you, your your essence, we talked about this some during the photo shoot, your welcoming and your celebration of life and your curiosity, and you're wanting to jump right in, and you're having no, like, no boundaries, in a wonderful kind of a way, just like up in your face, who are you?
I sound like
How
a puppy.
Yeah, like a puppy, but you didn't drool or do anything obnoxious, but
No drooling puppy, just puppy.
no drooling puppy, just the and and so the energy of that, actually didn't notice. I mean, I noticed you, but I didn't really notice the particulars about you.
Yeah.
And so my sense is that the gift of what I really call appreciation.
Yeah.
It's a deep appreciation of being sensitively aware of the other person, just evokes more and more of them feeling safe to reveal who they are. And having that experience for myself at a new level was so refreshing. And for me, because we went for hours and hours just nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
I kept occasionally I would go, where am I getting my energy from?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it was from the exchange of energy
It was
between
beautiful to
us. Yeah.
it was beautiful to watch you because I could see I imagined, I don't even know that I saw, but I could, like the drive and the choosing and the clothes and the new world and the trying all these, I mean, it's a lot. And I could watch sometimes your energy would withdraw just ever so slightly. And I could see that you were summoning in a beautiful way, mustering almost
Yeah.
like you didn't let it, and you didn't ignore it. Like once in a while, you were just like, I need to rest for a few minutes. And we would just, I would move on or do other things, whatever. But so you were taking care of yourself. It wasn't like, all right, I'm going to get this done.
No, it
And
didn't push
it
through.
wasn't pushy energy at all. And yet the energy it was almost like you were like the electrical car, you were regenerating your own energy from us loving you and from you loving what you were seeing. And then there was the photographer who,
Oh,
I mean, the photographer sometimes, I mean, just for those of you that are listening, he would literally stop taking photos because he was so interested in like listening to us and being with us. He'd be just like, oh, yeah, sorry, I'm taking photos. Let me get back to this. It was so special. So special.
yes. And the quality too, that between improvisation and structure,
Yeah.
I think is so interesting, that for all of us in our various lines of work and what we're wanting to accomplish in the world, there's this balance between free flow and then the structure, so that the free flow doesn't just flow everywhere. It
Yeah.
flows where you want it to go. And there was just so many elements of like free form, just move how just arrange yourself how you want to. And then here, would you put your leg over here? Would you angle your head this way? But it wasn't with any kind of, there was no criticalness.
No.
And I don't think I'd ever been in that kind of a space where there wasn't a kind of, like I was just thinking of cooking shows where
Yeah.
they're being filmed and they're all yelling at each other. And then, then there's a sense of,
Wrong.
hurry up.
Yeah.
So there also was a sense of being much more in the space of what we were doing rather than in time. I didn't actually think about time or look at a clock through the entire afternoon, and I actually didn't know what time it was when we finished. And so when I reflect back on it, I can experience the openness of the flow of space instead of being caught in the criticalness of time. So that was pretty amazing.
It sounds, I want to talk about the house too, because I thought the house contributed a lot to where we were, I thought also, but before that, as you were speaking, I was touching this idea that we bent energy and time. Like we were not aware. We didn't eat. We had like three pecans midway. And none of
Pecans
us,
and maybe a piece of cheese.
that was it. It's like we weren't, I mean, I did at some point I got an orange. I think that did give me, that
Uh-huh.
give me some vitamin C, I think, for sure. But certainly not a lot of food for a whole day. So we bent a number of rules. Like we bent the fatigue rule. Like I drove that morning. I woke up at 5. I drove from
You
Arizona for
started
6 or
driving
7
at 5,
hours.
and you were there dancing around when I got there, and just
I
whoosh.
know. I know. And so I'm saying, I mean, I think I've sensed it before, but this is really like a tangible experience that time and energy are both, when we think we're tired and we don't have anything left, turns out there's so much more. And then time, we both looked around and we were like, that's been a whole day. Like we were both so and they were with us. And so the moment that there was unlimited, it felt like unlimited reserve of both, of time and energy.
I love that. I experienced that also. And after we finished the shoot, I drove across. We went and had a little bit to eat, and then I drove across town for another 45 minutes to the hotel I was staying in. And when I got there, I didn't feel fatigued. I
Yeah.
There was something too about engaging. So you were noticing that sometimes I would draw back a little bit, and I wasn't participating as much with the outside world, but I experienced myself gathering. But I think that if we're all totally participating in what's going on, that fuels the whole system. I was thinking about driving in my car. I have an electric car, and when I put the brakes on, it feeds the battery.
Yeah.
So there were, I think there were things that we did that fed the battery,
Yes.
uh, that could be applicable to any kind of energy issues that people are like, oh, I didn't get enough sleep, or, oh, I haven't had enough to eat, or, oh, this is just too much for me to do. That we have resources that are organic to us that we can use in those kinds of moments.
Yeah. And as I'm thinking about how I witnessed you yesterday, there was also a non-resistance. Like, even if something was like more work, try another jacket. Okay, one more thing, one more angle, one more outside when we were kind of cold. But both of us, we would come in cooperation. It's almost if there was a resistance, we both were able to, we would look at each other somehow and just like, it would be like, okay, like now, let's bring it back,
Uh-huh.
like,
Uh-huh.
can you imagine a world where people are in their purpose like this and their zone of genius? Like how much more energy we would have and how much joy we would have. I mean, I think maybe the world is probably suffering a lot from not being aligned and acknowledged and like everything we just said, appreciated and given the chance and feeling safe and all of that. And it sucks the energy and the time out of the
Yeah,
room,
totally.
out of
And
the
I
world.
think it also brings people into time urgency and then fueling themselves with adrenaline. So the
Yeah.
thing I noticed in the whole shoot, there was no adrenaline. There was no, oh my God, we have to go. It was all okay now, and we're going to move to here now, and that ease, because I'm very sensitive to it. I can sense adrenaline, a
Like
mile off,
a
and
dog.
right. No. Oh yeah, no, there was a dog who came in.
And the cat was named Sophie. What?
I had forgotten that. So it was really like a circus. I mean, in
Yeah,
one
a little
way,
bit.
there was just always something coming through and other things going on. And what I loved was that something that could have been so hard. And I think I actually did have some fear thoughts about it was going to be hard, and I was gonna look ugly or stupid, some old, body image kinds of things. And actually, when I saw one of the test pictures, this is a version of me that I have never seen before. And so, I actually feel a little teary to have that kind of discovery in the middle of something that we're doing, like we're doing for the podcast, so that
Oh,
we actually are together. We hadn't been together in the same space. We
in a
figured
while.
for a couple of years. And
Yeah.
so being able to co-create together. But the thing that really stands out for me is that we can shift from time to space
Mhm.
very efficiently. I'm saying very quickly, but in the sense of we can make the shift even if there are stressors going on. We have a fuel source that we can draw on that is renewable,
Yeah.
of breathing, of breathing and moving for sure, which we did all day long, but also the inner relationship, the interaction of, I'm thinking also of sort of being for each other.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
I want you to have the best time, and I
I
want
want the
you
same
to
for
look
you, of
your
course.
most beautiful. And then when we're playing together, it really confirmed for me what we're up to, because when we play together, every
I actually
everything
texted you
shifts.
on the way there. I texted you, this is our time to be and play and love together. And I was just like, what perfect 3 words for this show? Because that's what I would have wanted to say that was happening, was this being and this playing and this loving. That is what generated, like, the loving created more presence, and the presence created more loving. And it was just like an emulsion, just it kept coming together in a not in a sense of more was giving us more, because it wasn't a volume. It was more, it was giving us what we needed, or what we could use to summon this other force, which I think is available. I mean, that renewable word you use is beautiful. It felt like we were recharging, and we were using the if there was pressure in a good positive way, if there was tension, like your brakes, like if there is a little changing of the energy that causes more
Mhm.
energy, is what it felt like.
Yes, and the changing of frames. So the other thing I'm thinking of is a concept that I started using a few years ago, which was new choice. So
Mm,
that in any moment, if things are, a little wobbly, or just a new choice, like one shift can be incredibly powerful. So like a shifting of posture, or standing up and breathing, or taking a sip of water, or moving around, or standing and just appreciating the view for a few minutes.
yeah, yeah. And as you were earlier talking about, how moved you were when you saw this picture of you, and you saw what we see, the beauty, the presence, the house around us, the beauty, this ocean. I mean, it was just so much beauty around us on top of it. It reminds me of the very first time. I don't know that I was 350 pounds at the time, but like at the old days of being much heavier.
Yes,
And of course,
yes.
all the photos of me are, my head behind people. You could see my big round face, behind everybody else. So I don't look at my body photos. And I did a photo shoot because I needed it for work. And so I begrudgingly, fine, I'll go
Mhm.
try something and just do headshots, because I don't want to, you know, all of that. And that was maybe 20 some years ago, so maybe 25, maybe. And I remember this was the breakthrough of my life. And people say that I'm photogenic, which always makes me smile, because are you saying I'm not as pretty as it, whatever? Like, I have a thing a little bit about that.
You use that as a negative
I do, I do, I do, I do.
statement. Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm surprised you look so good in photos, which is not, and you said something beautiful. You're like, no, 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 you just love the camera. There's something about the camera that my point was that day when I did that photo shoot at my 300 and some pounds was the first time. Similarly, I saw something on his visor, the little thing, and I was like, oh, this is actually beautiful. Like, I could
Yeah.
see myself, not in the usual see myself in the mirror, which I know is me. This was me seen by someone else, through the eyes of someone else,
Yes.
and
So
how
not seeing
artistic
through
that
your
was.
learned critical frame.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his zone of genius, like we had yesterday with our photographer, his zone of genius was not to hide or to just to angle the thing a little bit, maybe, or light me a certain way, because it's an art, photography is an art. There's no question there. So by using his genius, I was able to, and I cried so much when I saw these photos, just thinking of, I ended up doing photo shoots with my children, with my daughters as they were growing up, to give them an opportunity to see themselves, even when the skin was this, and when the teeth were metal, whatever they were
Right.
doing, even with all that, to find those beautiful angles where you can just not buy this other BS that we're told, we make ourselves up. I don't know, how
Well,
we.
I think that you're really onto something really, really important that we're taught, and I think it's part of what we call the upper limit problem, which is,
Mm,
basically don't be too full of yourself,
mhm.
don't be too much. And so that whole, and then also looking for what's wrong. Don't be too much. And when you look at yourself, or a person looks at themselves, they always look at what's wrong.
Yeah,
So, and having the experience of there's nothing wrong.
yeah,
Not only is there nothing wrong, but there's a kind of exquisite, um, uh, true beauty, which is essence beauty, not, made up beauty,
not
but
aesthetics only. Yeah.
yeah. And to be able to intend that our interactions with others support the expression of who people really are and their innate beauty. I think that is part of what made the day so magic.
And when you think of the culture we're in, with this whole Instagram, or not just Instagram, just platforms, of millions and of photos of millions of people, just this culture of, if you don't like yourself, what do you do with yourself right now? I mean, not, we don't all have to participate, but these young women and men, that grow watching all these other people and how they portray themselves, and how it's really something that it's a force. It's a big force that
Yes.
we're in. At the same time that we have magazines no longer being allowed to Photoshop as much, so now the pictures in magazines are becoming, not, we're not there yet, but they're becoming a little bit more normal looking, just genuine,
Well,
as
what I
opposed
was
to.
hearing too was authentic.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
photography can be used in so many different ways, but the intention to let realness come through. How somebody actually is, rather than, makeup is usually used to hide, or to change the way
Right.
someone looks. But if all of our expression is directed to celebrate realness and
Yes.
authenticity and uniqueness and each
Yes.
person's genius,
Yes.
then I don't think there's anything more exciting in the world and then someone's authentic expression.
Yeah.
And being able to celebrate that, to receive that, I think is also a catalyst for our own increasing evolution of realness and authenticity and creative expression.
Yeah, and it's interesting the way you speak of makeup sometimes, because I like lipstick and I like a little blush. My skin feels a little pale sometimes, and I just love highlighting, my cheek,
Yes.
whatever. It's not that different. I mean, we're not walking around naked. We wear clothes as an artistic expression as well. That's not an inauthentic thing that I wear this color because I think it fits me better than
Mm-hmm.
this other color. And to look at the process of taking a photo as more of an artistic expression of a creative, like even the way we stood with each other, there was photos where I loved when he was like, talk to each other but look at me, and we were both like, what?
Right.
That doesn't feel very
That was
authentic.
really, that was
But
true.
because you and I bring so much authenticity to the moment, we could have been speaking a different tongue. We would have been not understand each other. We would have, because our intention is to be so authentic and bring authenticity to the moment. I don't care what makeup and clothes and whatever, it's not going to add or take away. It features a little bit or highlights a little bit, but it's not, our intention is never to not be that. And so it brings that to the moment, no matter what we,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And I was just, as you were speaking, I was getting again the element of play, not like, because I think a lot of people think play is kind of silly or,
Right.
extra.
Yeah, yeah.
I play is essential.
Yes.
That if you're playing, you're not working. And if I'm playing, we're actually more effective. There's just lots of research now that play is way more effective than work. And the element of play that I was highlighting for me was of trying different things on.
Yeah.
And sort of a light, I've tried this on. Okay, great. And then try something else on, and participating with light. Oh, we'll do this and then we'll change it this way. So it's again making that one new choice,
Yeah.
shifting things around, and just then seeing what happens.
Yeah.
Rather than I've got to control this and it's got to go this direction. And if this happens, it's awful. So all of those different elements, I think, really come back to be, play, love.
Yeah.
So I got love through some places where I was feeling a little like, more dumpy. There was a moment where I was feeling sort of, more, and just got love through that and just popped right out of it. So for me, it really affirmed our intention, not only for the photo shoot, but for our podcast.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of what we're saying here that can be applied to also, it doesn't have to be in the context of any one of the things we're discussing here. I think bringing yourself with an intention of being authentic, of seeing each other as authentic. It was very moving to see, because I could see that you were pushing through something, and you were like a little girl, like you saw some of the pictures and were just so touched to see again what we see, but you got to see. And it was just so, what a anything else in the world that's more beautiful than to participate in each other's visiting a part of them. It looks like a little village inside themselves that they haven't fully, embraced or something.
Yeah, I love that when everybody's cheering, going, yay.
And isn't it bizarre how moments where like that, I think of one particular picture we took of you where we all were, it's not like, oh, what do you think of this picture? Or what do you think? It was just like the truth of the moment that cannot be faked or accentuated. It was just like, we all looked at each other like, whoa, and that's because this moment is true. It's not, it's not a intellectual, like all of us agreed. It's like when everybody gets up in a stadium or something, it's just like, there's no, okay, now we're getting up. It's time. Let's get up. Just,
right. It's just,
that's it. It's the force that just comes forward. That's uncontrollable. And in some ways, so deliberate, so beautifully deliberate.
Yes. I was just thinking of, there's a wonderful concept from books that Kurt Vonnegut wrote about the harmonoids. Do you know about the harmonoids?
No.
Oh, this is this wonderful thing that I just love. So here's what the harmonoids do. One harmonoid says, "Here I am." And the other says, "I'm so glad." Oh. "Here I am. I'm so glad." And that was my sense of what we did, over and over again. And what I'd love for everybody is that when you say, "Here I am," you're received in that way of, "I'm so glad."
I'm so glad. I am so glad. This is a beautiful way for us to wrap up. It's like, I feel like some of what we spoke of can be taken out of this context and used. Like, what can you look at today and appreciate in yourself, in your friend you're working with, the person in the car with you? That's the other thing. We went to dinner last night to a place that I've been to many times. And this one lady is not the most warm, and she does her job, very yesterday with your presence and the way you interacted with her and the way our table was interacting with her. I was just like, who is she? Like, she was so warm and that stayed with us and chatted with us and gave us thoughts about the food.
Coming back to have, so that kind of
it magnetizes.
Yes.
That's the human. Like we were saying, like, here we are, and she's feeling like, I'm so glad. And she brought her, here I am, like all around. It was just again, the energy, like the car, the energy begets more energy, and it just. Oh, what a place to for us to learn to turn this energy around that this planet is in, to just take little moments like this to see how can we augment, this thing of acknowledging one another and acknowledging ourselves and how much energy that creates.
Yes, beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I love you. And I cannot wait to share with our community this photo.
I know, I'm very excited. Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for organizing all of this.
It was so easy. It was play. There was no work.
Yes.
Play. I love you.
Mwah.